Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee meeting for April 14th, 2025. Our first order of business is a new practice that we started here at the council, which we will read in completion or some parts as we are starting our meetings, but we'll read it in full tonight. It's the Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement. The Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land that we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is the ancestral homeland of the Dakota Iote, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that the government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Iote, the Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policy. These commitments support the Dakota Iote, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the 7-county metro region home. And with that, we can move on. Our next step is to approve the agenda. If there's no changes, we can proceed. Seeing none, we're moving on to approval of the March 10th committee meeting minutes. Did anyone have changes or additions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss, second by Councilmember Osmond. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and motion carries. Now we'll turn to Metro Transit General Manager Kinderis for employee recognition.
Right. Thank you, Chair Barber, committee members. Today, we are excited to introduce several individuals who help maintain and operate our light rail service. Today's group of recognees includes a relatively new train operator who grew up along University Avenue and now has a direct role in providing Green Line service, a foreperson from our signals department whose ingenuity solved a long-running issue at our light rail facility in St. Paul, and 2 signal technicians who similarly found a solution to an issue at our light rail facility in Minneapolis. So I'm pleased that we have them here today to thank them publicly for their efforts. And with that, with the chair's permission, I'd like to hand it over to Shoaib Balim, the Assistant Manager for Light Rail Transportation, to make the first introduction.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Shoaib Balim, Madam Chair, council members. Today, I'm pleased to recognize train operator Her Cheng, who started with us back in 2023. As Leslie mentioned, he grew up along the Frogtown neighborhood and has a front row seat to the light rail Green Lines construction. He's now serving the larger community as a train operator. But we are here today to recognize something that Her did on February 6, 2025. At Union Depot Station, the train was there. As the train pulled in, there was a fire underneath the train, and Her was told to grab the fire extinguisher. He did not hesitate. He grabbed the fire extinguisher and put the fire out. I had 3 foremen, 1 assistant manager, 3 mechanics, 1 foreman, and 1 assistant manager from vehicle maintenance come up to me and say they were very appreciative of the action that Her took. Because of his actions, it prevented more damage. So I wanted to recognize Her for that. And I also want to present Her with a challenge coin from us and the pin that he pulled off the fire extinguisher. So,
Thank you, Shoaib. This is actually my first time on the council, so I'm not sure what to say because I was actually asking Shoaib if I needed to write a little speech thing, but all I can say is I was just doing part of my job, and I'm happy that I did my best to help out as much as I can.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you for your quick thinking.
And Chair Barber, we have a couple other presenters, if that's okay. I think next up is Perry Gunderson. Here.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. I'd like to introduce Mr. Scott Clark and Zachary Crandall. They are signal technicians in our light rail support facility. Over the past year, we've had a problematic switch at our operations and maintenance facility on our blue line, which resulted in over 80 service calls, much of them nuisance calls. But Zach and Scott took the effort to dig into our operational manual and discovered that there was a wiring issue between what had been originally designed and what the manufacturer had spec'd out. So through their diligence and perseverance, they figured that out. We were able to make the wiring changes in the house. And to my knowledge, we've reduced our service calls to maybe 1 or 2. So.
Awesome, thank you. Definitely appreciate the problem solvers who figure things out. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Chair Barber, one final recognition. We have Thomas Rittenauer here for the last one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm Thomas Rittenauer, the training and supervisor for signals and communications. So I would like to recognize Mike Miller. He's a Signal 4 person. He has been with Metro Transit since 2001. He started a couple of years before the Blue Line opened in June of 2004. Mike is one of the originals from the Signal Department, and he has helped shape and create the department that we have today. And because of that, he's a go-to employee for a lot of people on the Signal Department operation. So one of Mike's recent achievements that deserves special attention is his cost-effective solution to prevent the switch machine gearbox oil from freezing in the Green Line yards. By installing these $150 heaters, Mike was able to ensure that the equipment runs continuously in Minnesota's below freezing weather, which really helps against disruptions and saves time and resources for employees. So this is just one of many accomplishments that Mike has done over his career at Metro Transit. And we thank him for his work and his ability to provide a reliable rail service by minimizing preventive maintenance issues across the system. So thank you, Mike. Anything you'd like to say?
Oh, I'll just say when the RCC says, thank you, you got us going again, you can't ask for much more than that.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for your great work. We really appreciate it. You are the people behind the scenes that make everything look good and work on time. And I've got some plaques over here for if you each want to come up, and I can hand them out. Thank you so much.
Do you guys want to?
Oh, Deb, yeah.
Oh. Of course.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Right, make sure I had Scott and Zach correct. Thank you.
Oh, Deb.
Oh, we're doing separate, okay, sorry.
All right. Good to go.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Got it.
Awesome. One more round of applause. All right, before we move on to reports, we do have someone from the public who would like to address us. We have more cues here. You want to come on up?
Hi, everyone, members of the committee, chairperson, thanks for the time today. I wanted to come up and I expressed the last time I was here the lacks of service hours and the curfews. Let me reiterate just a little bit in about 30 seconds what today's schedule was. I was supposed to leave here at 5:30 on transit team, and they can move the ride an hour before or hour after. So they moved it to 6:25. I have another 7 o'clock meeting in White Bear Lake. My day is not done. And this kind of messes up our operation. And you are a public entity. We're paying taxes. You're here to help. Need some help. You're not helping my operation any. And so I'm going to be meeting with Rep. Vento in my area real soon to meet the new person and pursue this further. These curfew hours aren't working. The service hours need to be expanded. There's some other things that need to be done. I'll let it go at that. But instead of having tears in my eyes, put a smile on my face, please. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to come
You
and
bet.
speak with us again. All right, there's no one else. All right, we can move on to reports. Our first is MTS Director, Executive Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, council members. Recognizing you've got a number of business items today, and we have a big update on the regional solicitation. I don't have a significant report, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then we'll turn to Metro Transit General Manager Candaris.
Right. Thank you, Chair Barber, committee members. I also don't have much of a report, but since we didn't meet your last meeting in March, I did want to say thank you for attending the Gold Line opening festivities. I did share some information last week about what that first week of ridership looks like, and that's something we're continuing to monitor. At your next meeting, we plan to recognize some Gold Line staff as part of employee recognition, so we'll provide more of an update then. But just since we hadn't, or you hadn't had a meeting since then, wanted to thank you for your participation in that successful launch. So with that, I'd also be happy to answer any question.
Good, thank you. Questions or comments? All right, thank you, Leslie. We do not have a report from tech tonight. We are looking to get those back on track, but we don't have a report this evening. So we can move to our business items. The first item is item on consent. I'd entertain a motion to approve the item on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Fento. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cameron. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we're on to non-consent business. The first item is business number 2025-23, which is a procurement of Metro Mobility buses. And we have Jody Jansen and Paul Colton here to present. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. This afternoon, I would ask that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P038 with Northwest Bus Sales to provide 10 buses utilizing the State of Washington contract number 06719 in an amount not to exceed $1,608,000. This procurement of 10 expansion buses will allow MTS to meet future growth and an appropriate fleet spare ratio. Funding for this purchase will come from Regional Transit Capital. This bus project is included in the council's authorized capital program under the amended business item BI 2025-02JT.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-23.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Ossom. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to business item number 2025-71, which is a Green Line Extension Communication System contract. We have Jim Alexander here. Welcome.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. So this business item 2025-71 regards an amendment to a contract we have with Waptec. It's for the communication systems. Waptec is our provider for communications on the LRT system. And so we have a contract for the Green Line extension. And we are looking to add monies to this contract to This kind of goes back to the extension of time that we've talked about on the civil contract, that delays we had. And we've been before you with various business items back in 23 and 24. And so this is getting this contract up to speed in terms of the schedule delays that we had with civil. So, Madam Chair, this proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorized the regional administrator to execute an amendment to the contract 17P085 with Wabtec Transportation that will add a not-to-exceed amount of $3,448,597 for a total contract not-to-exceed amount of $19,069,025. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron?
Thank you. So upon completion of the Green Line extension, is there an ongoing contract with Wabtec for service operations, or is it only for the installation of the SCADA?
Madam Chair, committee members, I know there are contracts currently for operations. I just don't have the detail on all those, but they are our provider, so we continue to work with them, and they work with us as we continue to operate the system.
Councilmember Cameron?
This might not be an appropriate question for Jim, but once we move to operations, is it a single contract across the entire system for Wabtec, or is it specific to each line?
I was checking to see, Madam Chair, if there's anybody from Rail Ops. I believe there is a contract. Oh, Jody.
Madam Chair, committee members, Jody Jacoby, Chief Procurement Officer, and as Jim stated very well, we do have a single contract council-wide that supports the ongoing operations for Wabtec that includes the various different business units.
Great, thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Just one question. You know what question I'm going to ask? Does this change the top line budget amount for Green Line extension at all?
Madam Chair, I'm glad you asked that question. It is within our budget of $2.86 billion.
Thank you very much. Additional questions? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-71.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Osman. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. On to our third business item, which is business item 2025-82, which is related to the Gold Line Bus Rapid Transit and its amendment to. We have Mike Ulmer here to present.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. Mike Ulmer, I'm the agreements lead for Gold Line, and business item 2025-82 is for amendment to contract 19P385F with the Albrecht Sign Company. BRT stations on the Metro system feature a signature station marker called a pylon. The council purchases these pylons through contract 19P385F and supplies them to private construction contractors for installation at stations. 31 pylons were purchased through this contract for Gold Line BRT stations for $734,529. We executed the first amendment for this contract for $65,238.41 due to unit cost increases and hardware changes required. And during installation of the pylons, we determined that upgraded hinges and stays were needed to securely anchor the doors to the pylons. It will cost $29,136.40 for Albrecht Sign Company to provide and install this hardware for the Gold Line pylons. Therefore, we request that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute an amendment to contract 19P385F with Albrecht Sign Company that will add $29,136.40 for a total not to exceed amount of $828,949.33. That concludes my presentation. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron?
I'm curious, are these pylons specific to BRT lines, or why is this needed only on the Gold Line BRT and not on other pylons that we have across the metro?
Yes, Madam Chair, council members. It's a known issue. the hardware needing to install these doors. So this is something that the rest of the BRT projects are looking at addressing as well.
Good question. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-82.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vento. Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilmember Cameron. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. Business item 4, which is business item 2025-96, related to transit planning software. We have Sean Morrell here to present, and I believe it's a short presentation as well.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sean Morrell. I'm a business systems analyst with Metro Transit Service Development. I'm here to request your support for a new contract for transit planning software. You may recall I was here a few months ago asking for an extension of our existing software contract, so I'm here today to ask for your support for a new contract. And this is not responding. There we go. So to give you a brief overview of the procurement that has been underway for the past number of months, the agency need that we identified was to have tools for fixed route transit planning. Thank you. On-demand transit planning and streetscape design. So we issued an RFP in November. We received 3 proposals, and after an evaluation, we concluded that Remix Technologies provided the most advantageous proposal to the council. We selected 3 products or modules that we wish to implement. So we have the fixed route transit, which evaluates fixed route bus and rail network service. On-demand planning, which evaluates microtransit zones and scenarios. And the streets product, which explores roadway design scenarios. And besides service development, which is my department, other users around the agency include Arterial Bus Rapid Transit, Engineering and Facilities, and Metropolitan Transportation Services. To give you a bit of a deeper dive into each of these products, the transit planning module allows planners to build scenarios for fixed route bus service. The outputs include operating resources required to deliver that service, as well as demographic characteristics of the communities served or impacted by proposed changes in service. Similarly, the on-demand planning product does similar things, but this is evaluating scenarios for microtransit zones, and similarly estimates operating resources as well as ridership, and again, demographic characteristics. Finally, the streets product is a bit of a different beast. So this illustrates conceptual designs for transit stations, roadways, and circulation. So this is particularly useful for those in our agency who are developing plans for the placement and design of bus shelters, stations, et cetera. So the proposed council action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P233 with Remix Technologies for these 3 transit planning tools in the amount not to exceed the dollar amount shown on the slide here and in the business item. And that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Chambliss.
Thank you. This software sounds very interesting. My question about the different scenarios that it looks at, I noticed the focus is on planning. Once the design is done, does it still monitor, for example, like the profile around the area that it was used for the planning process? For example, you said population, usage, I think it was usage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a good question. I would say that this software is mostly used for preliminary concept plans that are later developed into more detailed refined schedule scenarios, and then once that service is actually implemented on the street, I believe there would be other tools that would be better equipped to provide the analysis that you're suggesting, such as ArcGIS might be another possibility. So evaluating the delivery of actual service on the street to the communities being served or impacted by service changes.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Cameron.
Okay. So a couple of things. First, my first question is really around what does the marketplace look like for this kind of technology? Because it seems very niche, and there, it sounds like you had 3 responses to the RFP. Is there, a broad market, or is it really only a few software companies are doing this type of technology?
I would say this is similar to other transit technologies where there isn't really a broad market or a lot of vendors out competing for this type of business. So the 3 proposals we received, the other 2 that we received were less responsive in terms of their technical capability to deliver the requirements and the robustness of their support, both organizationally and technically speaking. So all that to say, there's not a broad market of competition for these types of software packages.
Is there any component of FTA regulation that fits into the design of the design requirements within the software tools? Or is that not relevant to this bid?
I couldn't say about the design elements, but I would say one possible use of the software, you can stop me if I'm not answering your question, but this software is used, for example, to evaluate Title VI impacts, so the civil rights requirements of the FTA when we're making service changes, and especially service cuts or anything that might be seen as detrimental to a community. This is one of the tools that our planners can use to evaluate the impacts and mitigate those impacts.
Okay. And then my final question is there any, it sounds like there's not a big marketplace for this software, but what is the level of AI integration within the software, and what are our guardrails to make sure that transit planners are still the primary decision maker in putting together proposals?
Yeah, that's a good question in this, and AI keeps coming up in these discussions about transit software procurements. I can say that none of the proposers, including the recommended vendor here, provided any kind of AI-oriented features or functions at all. So I think that this particular transit technology is not yet delving into AI in a way that would pose the impacts that you're concerned about.
All right, thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? I have one question. You kind of answered it in the response to Councilmember Cameron's question of, we do use it to model actual service impacts on a more operations side, but do we ever just look at this is what we predicted and this is what the model said? I know we do with ridership, but with some of these other variables, do we ever kind of self-check some of the outputs from the model?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. That is a good question, and I couldn't speak to how the service is used by our planners for before and after comparison, so I would defer to my colleagues if Adam has anything to say about that.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. So we use Remix really on the planning side of things. It's not used so much for the evaluation unless it's a post-implementation. Did we actually implement what we thought we were going to implement? So if we did something different than we had originally planned, then we could evaluate it. But it doesn't really do performance metrics on how things are operating and are we serving something as much as we thought we were, or if we were going to be providing on-time performance, so those kinds of things.
Just an editorial. I'd be interested, especially with some of the microtransit, if the things we've predicted and looked at when we picked the zones is actually showing up on the operations side. I don't know if it would work everywhere, but that's the one area that seems is new to us too. So we've only got three areas really operating, but it might be interesting data.
Yeah, Madam Chair, exactly. And I'd say it's too early to say how close the estimation is for the microtransit zones, but we'll certainly be looking at it. So we're interested too.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question to know. And all right, any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-96.
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Osman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Vento. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, on to business item 2025-100, which is the Green Line Extension Freight Rail Dispatch Contract, and we have Jim Alexander back with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Alexander, Project Director for the Green Line Extension. This business item is regards an amendment to a contract we have with Rail Term. They provide dispatching on the Bass Lake Spur. Just a little background, the Bass Lake Spur is a freight rail corridor that runs between St. Louis Park and out to Minnetonka, and it was purchased as a requirement for the project. And under a trackage right agreement through that corridor, the council is obligated to provide dispatch service. And so we are proposing to amend the contract to extend the contract term and add some monies. So Madam Chair and committee members, the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute an amendment to contract 18P402 with Rail Term to extend the contract term and add an amount not to exceed $212,522 for a total contract not to exceed amount of $777,244.32. And I would add that this is within the project budget of $2.86 billion.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments from council members? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-100.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Osman. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. A motion carries. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to business item number 6, which is 2025-110, which is Federal Transit Administration Authorization Resolution. Mr. Petrie.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Ed Petrie, Director of Finance, Metro Transit. I'm here to present business item 2025-110, Federal Transit Administration authorizing, and also resolution 2025-11. The proposed action this evening is that the Metropolitan Council adopt FTA authorizing resolution 2025-11, which demonstrates the authority of the council to file for federal grants and delegates authority to act on behalf of the council. I'll give you kind of a little background now of what this resolution is for. One of the prerequisites to be a recipient of Federal Transit Administration or FTA funding is demonstrating the legal capacity to carry out the project or projects included in the federal assistance awards. Back in May 24th, 2006, the council passed a resolution 2006-13, which authorized the regional administrator to execute and file applications for federal assistance on behalf of the council with the FTA. The FTA has recently updated their TRAM system, which is their current system of record that we use to file our grants and to put our information in. So they recently updated and announced an enhancement to that TRAM system, and specific to the organization, it required what they're calling relabeling of the authorized resolutions beginning March 5th, 2025. So the requirements or recipients need to update their recipient documents in the FTA TRAM system prior to submitting or transmitting any new applications or grants. So while we did pass a similar resolution in 2006, the 2025-11 resolution is basically the same as the 2006, but it's an updated version that we can then get into the new TRAM system. The authorizing resolution 2025-11 will allow the council to apply for future FTA grants and awards for investment in transit. And it'll be, once again, it'll be just an update of that resolution in the current TRAM system. As far as for small business inclusion, there are no direct impacts to small business inclusion associated with this action. So Madam Chair, committee members, again, the action is that the Metropolitan Council adopt FTA authorizing resolution, which is resolution 2025-11, which demonstrates the authority of the council to file for federal grants and delegates authority to act on behalf of the council. And with that, Madam Chair, I would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron.
So this is a pretty straightforward resolution. Can you help clarify what was the issue with the previous resolution? And I think just a finer point, because it seems very clear. And so I'm just wondering what the issue was that was getting flagged.
Madam Chair, committee members, it's not that there was an issue. What happened was at the federal level, they did an update to their TRAM system. So we had this resolution on record with the FTA. With the update of their TRAM system, they're asking all recipients of federal funds to update this recipient letter. So as of March 5th, 2025, you have to then submit a brand-new resolution in, which is basically the same resolution what they had, but they want it into the new updated system. So it's more of an administrative housekeeping measure we have to do with the FTA.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? All right, with that, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-110.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Osman. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And now for our final business item for the evening is business item 2025-108, which is our Transportation Committee Agenda Guide, primarily what we would call our work program for the year. I'm going to turn it to Leslie and Charles. Who's rolling with it?
I can take it, Madam Chair, and certainly Leslie will jump in, but we've prepared the agenda guide, formerly known as the work plan. We'd shared this with you, quite a while ago now, but then also shared it with our new members. So thanks for taking a look at it. The other thing that you'll notice is a change is that we've adapted the format a little bit so that it will match the other committees' planned work plans, or now we'll call them agenda guides. So they're consistent across different groups. So as before, it lays out the major information items that we're planning across the year, as well as a couple that have associated actions with them. And as always, we adapt and adjust on the fly as the business of the year unfolds, but this certainly serves as a plan along the way. Leslie, any?
No, Chair, I think Charles summarized it nicely, and yeah, it's a living document. So certainly as we work through the year, if there are additional topics you'd like us to bring forward, we always want to hear that, and there's always opportunity to adjust as we move forward. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I will just echo that sentiment in general that, yeah, this will change if you have something. We have some new members. We're likely to get more new members. So if there are things that people want a deep dive on or something, or some more background information, just let anyone know and we'll make sure it happens. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Chambliss.
Just a comment that I know we've seen this before. I think it is going to be really good for as a reminder and a big picture of all of the plans and activities grouped by the different sections and divisions, and also agree that this will be helpful for onboarding new council members.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Cameron?
I want to commend the staff and highlight that in the last year, I have really liked having information items at prior committee meetings before we take a vote. That has been really, really wonderful and has made me feel like I'm more informed before I make a vote at Transportation Committee. So I'd love to see a continuation of that.
I will just say we try and do that as much as possible when we can. So, because I agree, I think it helps to be able to ask the questions before we have to make decisions. Additional questions, comments? All right, seeing none, then I entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-108.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Pacheco. Is there a second?
Second.
And by Councilmember Osman. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Ms. Jenna hands me the note of what goes to consent, and so I would, the final item doesn't advance beyond Transportation Committee, but among the others, I would, my recommendation would be all can go consent except for item number 6, which was the FTA authorization, unless there's any disagreement. All right, very good. All right, we are done with business for the evening and on to information items. We have 2 information items tonight. The first is the Regional Solicitation Work Group update, and we have Steve Peterson here to present.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members. We did want to give you an update on this multi-year project called the Regional Solicitation Evaluation. For those that are newer, this is a process of federal transportation dollars coming to the Met Council as its MPO We give out about $250 million every 2 years, and as a large work task item for our TAB and subcommittees. The goal of this particular effort is to align giving out this money, distributing this money based on New Imagine 2050 and the 2050 TPP. And we do have a policymaker work group, which has 4 council members, as well as TAB members. So Councilmember Barber, Chambliss, Carter, and Cameron are 4 members on this effort. So I thank them for their time. Here's a few of the tasks we've been doing more over the last almost 18 months here. One of the first items that we've brought to the policy group is what should be the general structure on distributing the money. So we looked at metropolitan plan organizations all across the country and how they do that. And the federal rules are very limited on that. So you have MPOs have quite a bit of flexibility in doing so. So we looked at all sorts of different structures. And today we're going to talk about a proposed structure that we're bringing through the committees. This is an information item, but we do expect to bring it back this fall for an actual vote through the TAB and through the council. So far today, we've heard general support for the structure we're going to talk about today. People did want to maintain some flexibility between now and the time in which we vote on it, as now we're starting the special issue working groups, and we'll talk about what those are today with technical working groups. Desire for simplification, people spending less time and money on consultants to submit an application, and you can see some of the other high-level feedback we've received. So the current structure that we've had really for the last 10 years is a structure based on modes. So bike ped, transit, and roadways, and then under which there's different application categories. And bicycle pedestrian, for instance, right now is multi-use trails, and then there's pedestrian facilities and safe routes to school are the 3 existing categories. And in kind of reviewing what we've done the last 10 years, our stakeholders noticed, I think, maybe 2 main things that were challenges with the existing structure. One, it didn't adapt to new technologies and new types of projects that people across the region wanted to fund, EV charging and a lot of other technology, shared mobility, other things, travel demand management type projects. And then secondly, if TAB wanted and the council wanted to spend more money on safety, which we've heard in a request made by TAB last cycle to develop a scenario of projects that best address safety. How would you do that? It was difficult under this current structure, and so we've proposed a way to address that so people can make a more conscious decision on how much money they like to put in these different buckets. So you'll see across the top is how we're incorporating the Imagine 2050 goals. So we've kept that modal structure, so we're calling this the modal plus structure, and based on a policymaker input that we received along the way, including we had a December workshop over at US Bank where we talked about here's a lot of the objectives, policies, and actions in at that point, the draft 2050 TPP, and how would you like to prioritize them? We can't do everything, but given this funding source, where would you like to put this federal transportation dollars towards, and what would you like to focus on? And so that's how we came up with the application categories as they sit in draft form on the page. So we added EV charging infrastructure, travel demand management, and stormwater improvements, flood mitigation under environment. And that would be a combination of the 2 goal areas of natural systems and climate. And then the modal structure would sit underneath the dynamic and resilient goal area. So then addressing the safety was another column. So we're proposing to have projects that are hyper-focused just on safety improvements. So those could be either roadway projects or they could be bike ped projects likely. So really any mode could apply, and with the main goal of reducing fatalities and serious injuries across our transportation system. So this is the structure. The boxes are application categories, so people would apply to specific areas and be matched against similar project types. And embedded within this is also the active transportation dollars, so that's part of the regional sales tax, is the $24 million a year of active transportation dollars that is coming to TAB for distribution. So now in this next stage of the project, we are starting special issue working groups. And so we have 7 groups established, and they have all started meeting last week or this week. And with workshops planned in person both in April and May. And the goal of that group is really we try to get the smartest people in all these areas across the region from our different public sector agencies to dive down into what's the best way to measure. So we got the policymaker input. Now this is how do you measure and score and the nitty gritty of how you select and rank projects. So here's the next few steps. Again, we do plan to come back to the Transportation Committee and the full council along the way, and then for as a business item this fall on the general structure and the applications, and at that point we'll send it out for public comment and then come back to you then for final approval towards the end of the year or early next year. So a few of the discussion topics we had. Or do you have any questions or concerns about the proposed structure? Is the proposed structure in alignment with the 2050 TPP that we've all been working on for several years? And do you have any feedback you'd like to pass on to the policymaker working group for how it's looking so far? Again, so an information item, we're gathering feedback, and that's what we'd like to do here today. And so again, across the top, you can see 4 of the 5 goal areas, so safety and public health, dynamic and resilient, environment is the natural systems, and climate. And then one thing we did hear from the policymakers, that 5th goal area, our region is equitable and inclusive. That would not be a standalone application category of which you would apply to, at least at this time, but maybe in 2 years' time after the highway harm study is completed by MTS staff would be another, we could take a look and to see if that makes sense. But instead, we have an equity special issue group looking at how to really embed it across the application categories, either as a scoring measure or as a qualifying requirement for all projects that they have to do certain activities or answer certain questions. So with that, Madam Chair, I think I'll turn it back to you and see if people have questions on where we're headed here.
Thank you, Steve. And before I open it for questions, just really want to thank Councilmember Tony Carter, Councilmember Chambliss, and Councilmember Cameron for serving on the work group. As you all know, it's a broad-ranging group, and it's really nice to have some good, solid voices around the table. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Vento.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, when you get to that point with the equity piece, I won't be around to say this, but I just want to encourage that in dealing with the equity that you remember the significant senior population we have here in the metro area, as well as riders with disabilities and the specific needs that they have. So I'm going to keep saying that as long as I can. So thank you.
Thanks.
All right, additional questions, comments? Councilmember Chambliss?
Yeah, just one clarifying question that came up in one of our policy meetings, and that's the proposed multimodal plus that you have up there. The HSIP small projects for safety, that's in addition to the standardized safety, which would be indicated under the first box under bicycle ped for the grade separation, for example? Is that more standardized versus more custom, or what's the difference?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and members. So I think a project, a grade separation project that you're citing could apply in either of those application categories if it was if there was either a real or perceived safety issue at that location, then it might be best under a safety category. If it was kind of completing the network, connecting back to our bike barrier study, then it may be better within that dynamic and resilient blue box. So I think there's some options for projects depending on what the objective of the project is.
Okay, one more question. So it's highlighted in red, and sometimes that means that you want something to kind of stand out, and that's why this safety is under its own category now with the Modal Plus. Am I understanding that right?
Madam Chair, members, it is. We had, back last year when we had the last funding cycle, the 2024 cycle, one of the funding scenarios that TAB asked us to develop was one that was focused on safety. We could do that with the existing categories, but it was difficult to do, and the TAB and the council couldn't say, I want to put $100 million towards safety. We think that's an issue we really want to focus on this cycle. So that, in part, that's why we developed a new structure that had very safety-focused categories. The before and after analysis that we did for all the projects, when we looked back at projects we funded both in MnDOT's safety, called HZIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, and with the solicitation, we found that the best way to, if you wanted to improve safety, was to have a very focused category that just got at safety. The categories that we had with the federal funding and the solicitation did a little bit of everything, which is great. We got good projects across the region. But if you really wanted to focus on safety, you had to have a very small number of measures that really attacked that specific issue.
Councilmember Chambliss?
Okay, well, that explains then why possibly having a separate category for equity might happen after the planned equity study. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, thank you.
And I will just add, having attended a large number of different sessions, whether it was looking back at regional solicitation or TPP development, all of this, no matter what audience we were in front of, whether it was a more urban county, suburban county, interest group, any of those things, regardless of mode, safety was the primary thing that kept rising. And we did find a way to manage it under our last regional solicitation framework. But now it's like, I think it was really clear that that was one thing that TAB really wanted to focus investment on. Yeah. Additional questions? Councilmember Cameron.
So, and thank you, Stephen, and for the team for all of the work that was put into this, because it was really amazing to participate in the working group and see everyone come together, and a lot of work was done at those meetings. And I'm thinking back into the particular meeting that we had at the US Bank building and looking at whether the application categories versus scoring criteria and metrics. And I'm just wondering what will happen to all of that information that went into scoring criteria and metrics. Will that be the starting point for the special issue working groups to begin with some of those policymaker recommendations on what should be metrics? So equity was a big one that came out of that, but also multimodal, and there were quite a few things that came out of it that are not on this slide in terms of structure for applications.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair and members. So you're right in remembering at that December workshop, we asked people to put the TPP objectives into, there should be an application category, criteria, or scoring measure. And so those that weren't application categories, I think would be, form the basis for where we should go next and bring into the technical work groups. Yeah. So good comment, thanks.
Additional questions, comments?
Just
Councilmember Chambliss.
Clarification. So are the special issue work groups the technical work groups, or are those different?
Madam Chair and members, yeah, I'm using those interchangeably, but they are the same thing,
I
yes.
just want
Yeah.
to make sure. Okay. I'll probably follow up on the two workshop meetings, because I know that at one of the TAB meetings, there was a workshop on equity. So if it's folded into one of these, then I can maybe look and see about attending possibly.
Yeah, Madam Chair and members, I think we can talk offline on the membership there.
All right, thank you.
And I would assume some of that information will get fed back to the work group, and we've got a couple more sessions before we're all done with that work too. Cool. Okay. All right, additional questions, comments? All right, thank you very much. And for our new members, like Councilmember Osman, and I believe Councilmember Johnson's listening. If you guys want more background information on just regional solicitation process, so just let us know. So it's quite the process. So. All right, thank you. All right, now we're on to our final information item, which is the transit information modernization. And we have Ben Richkowski and Laura Matson and Bree Grand. Welcome.
All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. Really excited to be here today. Ben Richkowski, I'm the Senior Manager of Transit Information, and we'll be talking through today our 2025 Transit Information Modernization efforts, and we're specifically going to be highlighting an ongoing procurement in which we're going to be updating and enhancing a number of our key customer information systems. So we are excited to get in front of you, provide you information of the benefits that we want to realize for our customers. And I know that's in line with Councilmember Cameron's desire to get these information items, so thank you for teeing that up for us. It was very helpful. So a quick agenda, I'll be providing an overview of our Transit Information Department, letting you know what we do, who we are, and kind of why we do what we do. I'll hand it over to Laura Matson to talk through our customer information tools and technology, which will be part of this procurement. And then Bree Grand will talk more specifically about our coordinated software procurement, talking about the benefits that we hope to realize for our riders, and then the timeline where we're at in the process we've gone through to get there. And then, of course, have time for your questions. So our mission and vision in the Transit Information Department, our mission is to support our riders with accurate, customer-friendly information. And our vision is that every rider will have the information they need to ride with confidence and ease. And so really we align our work really thoughtfully around our mission and are working to ensure that the priorities we set are really in line with moving forward, another step forward on our vision. And we're also aligned with our Metro Transit Forward strategic framework. So while we support kind of all the three strategic priorities around employees' experience and service, the bulk of our work is really around improving the rider experience. And so one of the measures of success under that framework or under that priority is increase in the use and availability of transit information data and tools. And called out in our action plan is investments in improvements to transit information, trip planning, and real-time information, which we'll be talking through today. So kind of a just quick overview of how we're structured as a department. We have 4 work units in transit information. Our Transit Information Center, or TIC, are our contact center reps. So they receive calls, chats, and texts from our customers, provide information on how to use our service. We also have reps who spend about half time taking calls, chats, and texts, and the other half out educating our customers about the transit information tools that we have. They're out providing information about detours and disruptions, but really the frontline contact for customers and providing information and capturing information about what customers are telling us. We have a field operations team that are out updating information at over 10,000 bus stops. They also support all the real-time signs and push-button annunciators on the bus side, so over 400 of those locations, and update over 1,300 shelter and facility posters with schedule and fare information for our customers. And they also distribute printed materials. We have a project administration team, project management team, which supports leading our more complex transit information projects that cross multiple departments or divisions, bigger projects like our coordinated software procurement, and then our data and business systems group, which Laura leads, and they're really in charge of overseeing all the data and tools and technology that provide information to our customers. And so we really think about the information we provide holistically. So we think about how customers need this, get this information throughout their whole journey. The type of information customers want, whether it's how do I get from point A to point B, what routes can I take, are there any detours, are there any disruptions, where's my bus, et cetera. Those are all things that are sort of iterative throughout their journey. They may be deciding before they leave kind of which routes to take, but when they're at the stop, when they're on the bus, when they're getting to their destination, they continue to have these questions, and we look at that holistically and try to provide information at each step of the way, try to understand the rider's goals and make sure they have what they need to ride successfully. Increasingly, we are more and more reliant in implementing more technology solutions, and I'll turn it over to Laura to really get into the technology solutions that we're talking about as part of this procurement.
Thank you. So as Ben mentioned, we support a lot of different customer information tools, and this is by design. Customers have different preferences, different needs, different accessibility considerations. And our goal is, regardless of the channel that the customer chooses to use, the information is as accurate, accessible, and customer-friendly as possible. I'm going to call your attention. We have a one-pager that accompanies today's presentation. There's a table at the bottom of the front page that talks through or that demonstrates some of the reach of these tools. I won't read the table out loud to you, but I will highlight two items. The first is, as of last fall, over half of bus boardings happen at a stop with a real-time sign. And of course, all light rail boardings happen at stops with a real-time sign as well. And that's only going to grow this year with, obviously, the Gold Line coming on board and B&E line right around the corner. The other thing I would highlight is third-party apps we know are really popular. We just launched an exciting partnership with Transit App. And last month, 2.5 million opens of the Transit app. It's a big deal. So regardless of the tool that customers are choosing to use, whether they're looking at a real-time sign, whether they're calling and talking to somebody in the Transit Information Center, looking at our website, or using one of those popular third-party tools, the same interconnected data and software systems power these tools. You don't have to memorize the diagram. The takeaway is just like it's all kind of the same back end. We're really fortunate in the customer information space that we have a really robust open data standard. That means that the pieces can be interchanged. Different pieces can fit together in order to get the outcomes that we're looking for. And that was one of the reasons why we're approaching this procurement holistically. We want to get the best possible outcome for customers. So the procurement that we'll be coming back to present to you about soon includes 7 different modules. Some of them are replacements for existing systems whose contracts are expiring or just time for a refresh, and some of them are new items as well. We'll just keep going through this. Really, the goal of the procurement is to improve the customer experience, to move closer to our mission of providing accurate and accessible real-time information. Selecting best-in-class solutions, modern, flexible, and future-oriented, interoperable solutions that use these open data standards and can provide data to multiple tools, and also looking to streamline work processes and make it easy to use for customers and staff. So there are several pain points that these new systems will address. The one I'm going to talk through in depth is the first on the list, detours. We're looking for improvements to vehicle tracking and predictions, making sure these new on-demand services are discoverable in tools and systems, and also making sure information about last-minute changes is timely. So I'm going to share some what I would say was reasonable customer feedback. I used your app to get to Energy Park Drive. It told me to catch the 3B bus at Minnesota and 6th Street Northwest corner. There's no longer a bus stop here. Get your app updated. I had to take an Uber because I could not find the correct bus stop. Your app is useless if it is not updated. There's no excuse for an inaccurate app. I'm not proud of this. In fact, I'm kind of embarrassed since this is like my area of accountability, but I have to side with the customer. It's 2025. If you look at an app on your phone, you expect it to be accurate. And we get lots of feedback like this, unfortunately. In part, we get lots of feedback like this because we just have a lot of detours. It's the reality of our system. The last year I counted was 2023, and there were over 1,600 detours. Of those, only about 20% made it into the schedule, the stops and schedule data that powers both our tools and the third-party tools. And a limitation with our current systems is that if we do put a detour into the schedule, we don't really have a very flexible timeline. We have to know about it before the Tuesday in order for it to get into the data. So if looking at this calendar here, if something goes into effect on the afternoon of Tuesday the 6th, it won't actually be reflected in the data until the following Saturday, the 17th. So that's a lot of days of leading our customers to stops that might not be open and resulting in them having to take Ubers. And I'll just say this really isn't a shortcoming of the staff who work on it. They do a great job. And in fact, when we talk to other transit agencies that use the same tools as us, the universal reaction is like, wow, you update things every week? That's crazy. It's a limitation of the tools. Detours are just really tricky. The tool that we do have a lot of flexibility with and can be updated in real time is alerts. But looking at this list of active alerts for the Route 21 from last summer, that's a really big cognitive load for our customers to have to parse all of those alerts. Alerts are important, but they're only available in English, and it's a lot of information. So detours are one of the key pain points we're hoping that this procurement will address. There are some others. Again, the goal is really to take today's frustration and hopefully transform it into a better customer experience post-implementation.
So as Laura described, the primary goal of this procurement is to improve the customer experience and reduce some of those customer information pain points that they currently experience with the existing systems and tools that we have. Some of the goals for the individual existing tools and systems that we have include things such as automating rider alerts so that they reach customers more quickly and efficiently, more accurate real-time predictions for departures, particularly during things like detours and weather events, disruptions of that nature, and enhancements to our trip planner to, for example, be able to show customers on-demand service options right within trip plans, and be able to for the trip planner to be able to take in real-time information so that it can update the trip plans for customers more dynamically when things like detours or last-minute service changes happen. Regarding the new systems that we're looking to procure, these systems are aimed at providing the ability to make some of the enhancements just described actually possible, such as a scheduled data editor to give us the ability to develop the data set needed to be able to show on-demand service and things like trip plans. System that will allow us to provide real-time detour information, one of the biggest customer pain points that Laura described. So the ability to reflect those detours in various customer information tools like our real-time departure predictions and trip planner. And additionally, we included website development services in this procurement because we anticipate that we want to account for the additional volume of work that we expect will be needed to be able to actually incorporate and reflect this data into the various customer information tools on the Metro Transit website. We've also partnered with our colleagues in the Service Development Department on this procurement. Service Development is responsible for route planning, service analysis, and scheduling for the council. We included transit data analysis and visualization tools for service development in this procurement due to an overlapping vendor pool. These tools provide business intelligence capabilities for service planning, such as dashboards, interactive reports, et cetera, primarily using automatic vehicle location data, so data on on-time performance, vehicle run times, et cetera, and historical automatic passenger counter data, so data on ridership, boardings and alightings at stops, et cetera. And these tools can also be used by other departments. So there's a cross-utility for other needs, potentially in departments such as strategic initiatives, engineering and facilities, and others. The request for proposals for this procurement was developed over the better part of last year. We coordinated with, beyond the stakeholders within Metro Transit who worked to develop the scope for the various systems in this procurement, we worked closely with our colleagues in the IS department who provided guidance on things like technology security and software applications architecture. They're also serving as evaluators on our panels for reviewing proposals. We also have been coordinating for over a year now very closely with our colleagues in the procurement office who have really played a key role in providing guidance on RFP and evaluation criteria development and assisting us with navigating through this entire procurement process. The request for proposals was released last fall. We received proposals and we are currently in the proposal evaluation and selection phase. We are aiming to complete that phase and come back to council for contract approval around the end of this quarter. And then issue notice to proceed and finalize contracts with the vendors in early Q3. After that, we will immediately begin implementation work for these systems, which we aim to complete by the end of next year. And then, of course, the ultimate goal with completing that implementation is that our customers have the information that they need to ride with confidence and ease. Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. We'll be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councilmember Osman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question is, you already mentioned that this information only available for English for the time being. Is there a plan that we can include other language other than English, like Spanish and Somali in the future?
Madam Chair, Council Member, great question. This is definitely an interest of our department. And what I would say is one of the awesome benefits of having so many apps out there that, you know, if my phone is set to be in Spanish and I open Google Maps or I open Transit app, I can plan trips and see departures and get all of the information I desire in Spanish. The challenge with alerts is that it's a English language narrative. One of the enhancements that we've scoped for this project is to facilitate more languages being available. But really the goal is to make it so clear from like where the stops are located and what the trip plan results say, what the departure countdown is, that you don't even need that translation step. The information is just immediately available there.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, I'm not sure what page the text alerts was on, but is the updated enhanced programming going to go on the displays when people are waiting for the bus, or what are going to be the uses of the system upgrades in terms of where will customers be able to benefit directly?
Madam Chair, Council Member, great question. The takeaway is nearly everything. The updated information will flow to real-time signs. It'll be available on our website. It'll be available on these third-party apps. It'll also be available like for the folks in the Transit Information Center. If your preference is to call and talk to someone, part of this is giving them tools that make it easier for them to do their job.
Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Cameron.
So kind of building off of Councilmember Osman's point, and I think you were getting at this, but I just wanted to make sure and drive this point home, that not only is language accessibility an issue, but accessibility across the board, and making sure that we are thinking about these things as we're engaging with customers. One other piece kind of tied to the language is, if you look at the alerts system, the wording is complicated, and needlessly complicated. Instead of saying the Blaisdell stop is closed, it says the following stop is closed at such and such a location. This is stop numbers, whatever. And so it's complicated wording that makes it overwhelming needlessly. And so just that simple tweak in language of making it more straightforward and direct and active language is a much better approach, and then it lends itself to easier translation as well. Then I had a question about in terms of customer feedback. This is a really all-encompassing tool, and so it's kind of hard to wrap around all the individual aspects of this. But one piece was around customer feedback. What is the highest frequency tool used for feedback? Is it calling over the phone? Is it, a text message? Is it, you mentioned the app opens. Is there a reporting tool on the map, in the app? Where are we seeing the most feedback come in?
Madam Chair and Councilmember Cameron, that's a great question. I can actually speak as part of another project that we're working around, which is a customer issue tracking reporting system. We did look at some numbers on how customers are reporting issues. And in our customer relations department, about 85% of the contacts are still through via phone. And in our transit information center, about 95% of the contacts are still through the phone. And so those are just some perspectives of the two contact centers. I don't have the information specific to like a contact us form or et cetera that to add in there, but we still get a lot of customer reporting issues through traditional phone.
Okay. So then kind of tied to that, that's what I suspected is that a lot of this is technology-based outreach. And so with limited accessibility to technology, limited technology literacy, especially in English, and barring the use of adaptive technology for accessibility, how do customers who have those challenges engage with service alerts, with all of this information? I think you've alluded to a couple of tools that are used, but let's say a lot of our customers don't have access to the app, or the app is not adapted to meet their accessibility needs. What are we doing to make sure that those customers also have access?
I was going to say, Bree, do you want to talk about IRA and push button? And we can then talk about push button.
Yeah. Sure. Madam Chair, Councilmember, we have been working towards implementing various additional tools for accessibility purposes to try to reduce some of those gaps that you noted. One of the contracts that our department manages is for a tool called IRA, which is a live stream wayfinding and navigation application that connects customers who are blind or low vision to a live agent who can access their camera and their speaker and GPS location on their mobile device to help guide them in real time as needed, read schedules, ensure that they're at the correct location, that sort of thing. So that's just one example of one of the ways that we're trying to enhance that accessibility piece in ways that some of the traditional tools don't provide.
I would add, there are accessibility features in some of the apps that we know from members of the disability community that they use, and that's a reason they prefer those apps. All of the real-time signs do have a push-button enunciator that accompanies it, and that the data that goes to the enunciators is also part of this.
And I would just add the additional element of we do have an IVR system, our automated phone system that I know a number of blind and low vision customers have stated they prefer to use, as well as contacting our contact centers.
Additional questions? Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, I was wondering about the ability to escalate certain locations where, for example, maybe there's a high level of dependency at one location because if they miss a bus, another one doesn't come for 2 hours or 1 hour or something like that, or there's not a way to, walk to another bus if you miss a bus, or if the bus is not coming. So that's most of the time when I get complaints from riders that call me, it's about, okay, my bus didn't come and I can't get to work, or I'm stranded, or I don't feel safe in this location. Is there a way to pinpoint certain locations as having higher needs, or I know we do have some stops where you have a lower ridership. Is there a way to make sure that they're taken care of versus a stop that, every 10 minutes there's going to be another bus? Just something to think about.
Madam Chair, Council Member, thanks for the question. I'm wondering, Leslie, if you want to speak to this. It's not the transit information domain, but within the Transit Control Center, they do have priorities of service that does or doesn't get cut.
Yeah, Chair Barber, Councilmember Chambliss, great question. And I think rather than me speaking off the top of my head, I'd like to follow up with you on exactly how we do that. But to Laura's point, it is something we take into account. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions, comments? I'll just say thank you for presenting this, and it's nice to see another technology update. We've got all the work coming in place with the fare system, with tap to pay, to this, to the integration with Transit app and some of these other things, which if you want to provide feedback at the Transit app, you can do it real time on the app, which is kind of lovely. But I think all these things coming together, like between now and the end of the year, it's going to be really great and a big step forward. It's one of these things. IT investments are big leaps, and so it's we're in a process right now where we're taking a big step ahead, and I think it's going to be very good for our customers. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from anyone? All right. With that, that concludes our business for the evening, and we are adjourned.